So it's a myth that you really need to go to the gym to do a strengthening program. Did you know that? You can do it in the comfort of your own home with just a set of dumbbells, which is what we're going to do today. But it's going to take some focus. Let's start with the legs. Now the squat is a great exercise for the legs, your quads, and your glutes back here, but it also trains pretty much everything from here down with respect to the abdominals, the low back, the calves, the abs, you name it. It's also going to test your mental fortitude. This is Ann. Hi, Ann.
Hi.
Ann is also a PT. She knows what we're talking about here. So she's going to turn that way. And if you're at home, you want to probably start to learn this with something in front of your knees, because when you squat down, you don't want the knees to go past the toes that way. It's very hard on the knee joint. And your feet position, a little bit wider than shoulder width, roughly. And she's in pretty good position here. Now go ahead and put your hands, clasp them together, and we're going to pray that nothing bad happens. And then she's going to bend her knees slightly, and she's going to load her quads first, and then she's going to squat down to about 50 degrees, which is about there. You've got to make sure that the knees don't collapse inward. That's called valgus. Bad. Valgus is bad. This, good. But notice she keeps her belly in and her chest is upright. And she's going to hold this for about 7 seconds. She rocked back onto her heels. Go ahead and push back up. Doing this wrong, there are 100 different ways to do it incorrectly, but these are actually dangerous ways to do it. Squat down, but then go forward onto the forefoot. See, she squatted down. Now, how hard is that? It's a piece of cake, right? All I have to do is rock her back this way, and now how hard are you working? Yeah, but she's keeping her belly in, and where are you feeling it? Right in. Anything in your back? Nice. And let's progress. So once just the body weight is easy, you progress to using a dumbbell. And this dumbbell obviously adds resistance, but it can also help you in the sense that it's a counterbalance to give you some weight forward so it's easier to stay back on your heels. So harder in one way, easier in the other. But the technique is the same. So Ann, pull the shoulder blades back just a little bit, but keep the belly drawn in. You've got to protect your back here. Very important. Bend the knees slightly. There. Now, where are you focusing? On the quads, on her thighs, not her glutes, not the low back. And then now she just squats down, keeping the dumbbell close to her body. Come down. There we go. And that's 50 degrees. And then now, making it more upright, does that make it easier or harder? Harder. Yeah, much harder. But she's keeping her belly in. Now push up, and then right back down again. Please, please note, this is 50 degrees right here at the knee, 50 degrees of knee bend right there. Going lower than that, the forces on the knee go way up. Good job. Now, if you're tired of doing the squat, new problem. You can do the lunge. The lunge does work the thigh or the quad muscles, but it does use the glutes a little bit more. So if your focus is the glutes and you want to emphasize those more, the lunges may be a better option for you. But remember, the squat is also an important exercise too, so you can mix it up a little bit. Now Ann is going to do the lunge and take a big step forward. And notice she takes a step forward so that this knee is behind this hip. So if she goes too far forward, it's really going to pull on the front of her thigh more, which is going to make her arch more. That's what we don't want. We really want this knee now just to drop straight down. And it drops straight down and then push back up again and then right back down. Now the hard part here, people, the focus is on the front leg, not the back leg. So the position of this back foot right here, go ahead, Ann, and you're just going to do some reps. That's 50 degrees about. That's it. But she's using this back leg a lot. Relax this back leg more. Ooh, there, how's that? A lot harder? The hard part, people, is to get this leg to relax. Push up all the way. There. See, and then keep going. Now don't pause. Go a little bit slower on the way down. But now relax this knee a little more. That'll put some hair on your back. So now in the lunge, you've got to make sure, you can put your hand on my shoulder, for tummy here. And then as she goes down, notice the knee is staying nice and straight. She's not letting it go in this way. and she's not doing this with her pelvis. Does that make it easier or harder?
Very easy.
Much easier. So you keep it straight, and the focus is where, Ann?
Right on the quad.
Right on this. You're always using the glutes in this. The variable is the thigh. So you've got to focus on using the quad, and the glutes take care of themselves. But just make sure that the belly stays in, and you relax the back leg. Oh, that's juicy. Good job. Now the bent over row, one of the toughest to learn, one of the toughest to teach, quite frankly, because it's very precarious on the low back. You've got to make sure that you keep your belly in and you're focusing on moving the shoulder blades together, keeping the head completely still. That's extremely difficult, people, so be patient with yourselves. You can get this. Just get the setup right, because the setup, quite honestly, it's about half the deal on this one. Okay, so you're gonna start with the feet a little bit wider than shoulder width. You're gonna give yourself a good base here, even wider than that. Yeah. And then turn the dumbbells here. Now, as you're learning this exercise, to learn this, if you don't have years of experience doing it, this is how you're gonna start it. You can also do this with a pronated grip or the palm down, but that is twice as hard to learn. Very difficult to learn. So you're gonna start here, bring the dumbbells out away from you just a little bit. Now, draw the belly in, stick your butt out, and bend over. But the chest stays up. There. Perfect position here. Notice the back is straight, her head is straight, and her belly's in. Now she's gonna row. The hard part here is to go ahead and row, is to keep the elbows coming away from the body a little bit. And she's not shrugging, she's pulling the shoulder blades together. See the shoulder blade? She's pulling the shoulder blades together. Go ahead and shrug now. Don't do that. It ruins the exercise. Pull the shoulder blades back. How hard are you working, Ann? Get the dumbbells a little way away from you. There, now how hard? Yeah, all you have to do is let the dumbbells come in here. How hard is that? Don't do that. Come here, and then keep the dumbbells slightly wider than the elbow, and pull with your shoulder blades. Pull my hands back, but keep your belly in. Do not overarch your back. Good job. Now, to train your shoulder muscles, you aren't going to need a whole lot of weight based on the way that we do this next exercise, which is called the lateral raise. Now, when you do this, you're going to try to use these muscles here without hurting your neck or your shoulder joint. And that's going to take a little bit of concentration. And go ahead and start at 90 degrees at the elbow. This is how you're going to learn to do this. And it's going to be real straight, dumbbells straight, and they're going to be facing this way. And then now she's going to pull the shoulder blades back just a little bit. And then now she just comes up as a unit. The dumbbells, this is where you end up right here. And then you come down and then back up again. So you're trying to maintain straight from the shoulder right out to the elbow. The focus, people, is these muscles right here, the deltoid muscles. Do not move your neck. Keep your neck totally still. How hard are you working?
Pretty hard.
Really? All right. I want to make it work real hard. Now, rest for just a second. How can we make this harder without increasing weight? In physics, there's a concept called torque, and it's based on creating more force about an axis, in which case the shoulder joint, by increasing the lever arm, or how far the weight is from the axis or the joint. So what do? We just simply straighten the arms. Now this is very, very difficult to do, so make sure that you're using a weight that you can get at least 10 or 12 with using proper form. Now go ahead and straighten the arms, and then she starts at 45, and then now she comes up to there. How hard is that?
Hard.
That's a lot harder, right? And so you want to keep this is called the bicipital fossa, right here, facing forward. If she turns it upward, like this, is it easier or harder?
Easier.
Much easier, because the deltoid is doing less work. All she has to do is turn the elbows there. Now that's gonna pickle her giblets. Oh, good job. How hard is that?
That's really hard.
And then all she has to do again to make it easier is lean back towards me. Keep the dumbbell straight. Now just lean back towards me. And is it easier or harder? with me helping. Good job. The wall press exercise is really kind of bizarre because it really looks like you're not doing much of anything, but it is brutal. Usually more so for men because we tend to be a little bit tighter. Not necessarily just high strung, but tighter and less flexible. But this is for the upper middle back. The rotator cuff muscles are the muscles deep inside the shoulder. They help control arm motion. And your abdominal muscles and even the low back. So it's very difficult. The key here is to make sure that you do not alter the position of the spine in your belly. That's the key in keeping your head still. If you've had an auto accident, neck, whiplash, rotator cuff shoulder, whatever, this is a great exercise to start from. So Anne's gonna lean up against the wall. She's gonna put her feet away from the wall, even more. Yeah. And then now she pulls her shoulder blades back. Even that in and of itself tends to be difficult for most people. She draws the belly in, and now she's ready to start. The hard part here is to not arch this, right? I mean, and then pull the shoulders back, and then now she's gonna bring the arms up, and she's gonna bend the elbows to 90 degrees. Very nice. And see, she's not arching her back. This is where you start from. And see, you can already see the rotator cuff, so I can kind of peek my finger through there. Can you flatten that? That's hard to do, isn't it? Oh, that's so hard to do. That's the rotator cuff working overtime to try to get that back. Now slide your arms up. You can go a little faster. She's gonna go all the way up here to where the elbow reaches almost ear level and then back down. Keep coming. To where the hand reaches almost ear level and then back up again. And hence the wall press. You're trying to keep 90 degrees at the elbow as she comes right to there. To make it easier, all she has to do is extend her arms a little bit. And is that very hard? No, that's kind of lame. So she's gonna bend the elbows, and it's right here, what's happening with the hand. Try to make that more flush. Yes, more thumb against the wall and then more pinky against the wall. Isn't that brutal? And then come down and then go back up again. 2 sets, try 15, go a little higher. And don't arch the back. Good job. So we've done the thighs, we've done the glutes. I want to do the hamstrings now, which also, by the way, this exercise also gets the glutes too. You want to make sure that you don't arch your back when you do this. That's a huge hazard. And some people, they do complain of cramping when they do this, so you might be aware of that too. You ready, Anne? Yep. Remember, Anne's a PT, so she's just kind of going through the motions, but let's make it work a little bit anyway. Now, you notice her feet are going to be almost touching. So the feet are almost together, the knees almost together. Now go ahead and extend the hips. Yeah. And see, the tendency are the knees to go apart. Does that make it easier or harder? A lot easier. Why is that? It's because, go ahead and move them together again. The hamstring, the largest hamstring muscle you have, is along the outside out here. It's in the back of the leg, but it's on the farthest lateral side. So when you move the knees out, that muscle essentially goes to sleep. You've got to keep the knees in to get the most hamstring that you can. And then now, Anne, go ahead and do a bridge. So she's going to lift her pelvis up, but she's also making sure she's keeping her belly in. She's not arching her back. She keeps the pelvis here. Is that very hard to do right now? Are you okay? Now let's make it kind of hard on the hamstring, shall we? Some of you will find this to be difficult, and that's okay. You can start here. But now you're going to do this, if this is too easy. And straighten your left knee. That was superb. See how she straightened the left knee and she didn't move her pelvis? What's working here? The right hamstring, the hamstring back here. And notice she didn't let the knee come out either. She kept it here. Then go ahead and let it down. And then now go ahead and you can switch. And then we'll do the other one. Very good. See, she didn't move her pelvis at all and she straightened it. Now which hamstring is working? So she straightened her right knee. Now her right hamstring is working. Is this harder than the other side? Or is it about the same? About the same? And then bring that back down. Good job. So if you have hip problems like bursitis, osteoarthritis of the hip, or even knee problems and low back, This is absolutely a key exercise to get good at because it strengthens the gluteus medius muscles right out here on the outside part of the hip. Now, these muscles help to really protect the hip and the low back from forces that you usually incur from a day-to-day experience, like climbing stairs, getting out of a car, playing with your kids, whatever. But training this muscle is brutally difficult. So for this, we're gonna use a wall here to help Ann line up properly and make sure she's doing this correctly, because most people, when they do this exercise in like a class setting, they're doing it completely wrong and actually wasting time and maybe even hurting themselves. So what we wanna do here, Ann, as you can see, first before she even extends the leg, if you'll notice, if I roll her forward, there should be no gap here. So she's gonna scoot her bottom against the wall there. What that does is it makes it so that this muscle's lined up against gravity to pick up the leg. If that's off the wall, then these muscles in front, or the tensor fasciae lata muscle group, are working, and that's a waste of time. Bring this leg back now, and then now without arching her back, you notice, see how nicely she's keeping her belly in? Is your low back fine there? Yeah, she's in good shape there. And then her leg is straight, and then she's gonna point the toe upward just slightly. That engages that weak muscle very, very well. Now, without arching her back, she's gonna bring her leg up along the wall as high as she can without moving her pelvis. How hard are you working? About there, right? And that's pretty good, but that's getting her right in that gluteus medius muscle. And then she comes down, and then she goes back up again. And there's the exercise for you. For some of you, and not many of you, this is gonna be too easy. So what you do, come down, you put this foot up on the wall a little bit, and then lift this knee up a little bit. And then pull the belly in, and then now let's see how much harder it is. How much harder is that? A lot harder, and she's doing such a great job of not arching the back. But what that does is it makes it so that the hip muscles down here on her left side, they can't contract to help out. Now she's relying totally on this. How hard are you working? And notice her hand here is here because then she can sense whether or not she's letting her belly out. You've got to keep the belly in when you're doing this. Good job. The bench dip is a great exercise for the triceps, right here on the back of your arm. Now remember, just training a muscle group does not decrease its flabbiness necessarily. Ladies, especially ladies, if you have a lot of wobbliness back here, you know, the waving goodbye syndrome back here, that's body fat. It's not loose muscle. How do you cut body fat? Caloric deficit by the end of the day. Doing the resistance training is gonna help, obviously, because it's gonna burn more calories. But you're not gonna tighten up the fat. You've gotta lose the fat. This is gonna strengthen the muscle underneath it. Now, Ann, we're gonna do the bench dip. She's gonna put her hands right next to her hips. And then now her knees are gonna be all the way bent. And this goes for everybody when you're learning this. It's just almost impossible to do correctly with the knees straight. And you'll see what I mean. Ann, go ahead and come off. Now, go ahead and do a couple. And what I want you to watch her do, look at the shoulder. See her shoulder? See this part stick out right here? That's pretty hazardous on the shoulder. So what we're gonna do is, oh yeah, now watch. Now push up. Easier or harder?
Harder.
Yeah, a lot harder. Why? Because, go ahead and go down again, the elbow, look at the elbow come back. That's really hard on that, isn't it? Push back up. That's why the knees are bent. You're not gonna be able to get more than 8 or 10 of these anyway. And then push up. So you're trying to keep the chest facing upward and really focus on using the triceps. Now go ahead and slouch forward again. Easier or harder? And that's the way people usually do them. I'm telling you, waste of time, and it's actually higher risk on the shoulder. Oh, that's really bad. Looks like the hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, pull these back. Now the elbows come straight back as she does this. There. Now go down a little lower, and then push back up. Keep your shoulder blades back. There now, and keep your chest up. Now push. Is that too easy? Now the biceps are here, and most people don't realize this. When you do bicep curls, you're actually working the muscles of your upper middle back or your postural muscles almost just as much. The key is to keep your shoulder blades completely still while keeping your belly in and your elbows still. That's pretty hard to do. And let's show off a little bit. So we're gonna start both dumbbells down. And I recommend doing this both at the same time just because we wanna save some time. And then pull the shoulder blades back. And then your grip is pretty strong. And the dumbbells are gonna stay facing the camera. And then now as she curls up, go ahead and curl up. The elbows stay still, and then back down again. The wrist will come back a little bit. See, she's pushing the palm to the ceiling. So actually, the pinkies get a little bit higher than the thumb. Do you see that? But she's keeping her elbows still. There we go. Now they're lined up with the wrist. How's that? Is it too easy? How hard are you working? And then, well, you want to know why? Because the shoulder. Now do it. Now keep the shoulder blades there. Now how hard is it?
Harder.
Just humor me, yeah.
Harder.
And then back down again, and back up. The elbow stays there. See? It's a lot easier to let the elbow do this, see? Yeah. See how much easier that is?
Much easier.
Much. See, just let but keeping the elbow still. And the shoulder blade pulled back. You wanna know why? Because the biceps, they attach to the shoulder blade. So by keeping the shoulder blade still, the muscle can contract against a stable object on one side. How hard?
Harder.
Yeah, that's gonna, yeah, good job. Good job. The side-lying plank is a very difficult exercise. This is gonna get the muscles all along here on the side of your trunk, the hip, the side of your hip, I should say, and even the shoulder muscles, your lats down here, and even some of the rotator cuff muscles in the shoulder. This is very taxing on the shoulder. If you have shoulder problems, this may be a little bit too advanced for you. But let's start out with level 1, where you're gonna be in the least provocative position, which is the position that Anne's in now. Anne's gonna put her hand on her hip, and she's going to lift her hips up, and then now we're gonna try to make a straight line this way. Yeah, knees bent. See, from here, you want it to be perfectly straight, and she can extend the hips a little bit more. Oh, yeah, now that's straight. That's hard, isn't it? Yeah, nice and straight. And notice she's not shrugging. See the shoulder, it's down. How hard are you working, Ann? Nah, she doesn't look too constipated, it looks okay. And she's keeping her belly in. Now this is probably a little too easy, right? She's flaring her nostrils a little bit, which suggests that it may be a little bit hard, but not hard enough for my standards. So want to make it more interesting? Let's make it more interesting. And go ahead and straighten your knees. So now if that's too easy, we get to go off the feet. Nice. Okay, and now lift up. And then see now, straight from her ankle, knees, hips, shoulders. So she's got to extend a little bit through here. How easy is that? How hard are we working now? How are you smiling? She's gritting her teeth is what she's doing. And then if you want to do reps, here's what you do. You lift up and then come back down again. Then up and then back down again. And the focus, people, is right down underneath here, right where my hand is. But you're not shrugging, and you're focusing on using these muscles and your hip. And you're pushing off that bottom heel, keeping your legs together. Nice job. Good job. Now this next exercise is called a crunch. It's for your abs. Let me just make this perfectly clear. Doing abdominal exercise does not, repeat, does not make your abs look better, okay? The goo that you're grabbing on your tummy, that is actually fat. You can't flex fat. To get rid of fat, you have to have a caloric deficit at the end of the day, which means eating right, exercising, of course, and that is what's going to give you great abs. You probably have great abs right now. You just can't see them because there's too much fat on top of it. Ab training does not burn a lot of calories. Studies show that it would take over 27 years to burn a pound of fat doing 100 sit-ups a day. 27 years. So you're not gonna burn many calories here. This is not where I want you to spend the most of your time. You're training your abs with all the other exercises we do in this video anyway. So make sure that that this is just adjunctive. This is not the crux of your workout, please. Now to do the crunch correctly, you wanna make sure that the low back is in a good spot. What I mean by that is, we're gonna flatten one leg, not both. And then she's gonna tip the pelvis to a position where she feels most comfortable. See, if she comes back this way, is that more or less comfortable? She doesn't like that. So we're gonna tilt it back. How's that? Now it's tilted, it's in a great spot. That's why we put one leg down, because then mechanically it comes to a relatively neutral position. Then she puts it into what's called neutral pelvis, where she's most comfortable. And then she pulls the belly in. She's looking up at the ceiling because now she's gonna lift her shoulder blades up off the floor. And while she does this, I'm telling you, the hardest thing to do, yeah, see, her hands went right there because she was curious. Am I keeping my belly in? And she is. Now go ahead and you can do some reps. You don't have to stay in a constipated position. There you go. See, now she's keeping her belly in and she's got an apple underneath her chin. And it's just back and forth. And she's keeping her lower body still. And see my fingers here? My fingers are staying down. Now go ahead and screw it up. See how my fingers come up? That stinks. You know what that means? It means that the vertebrae in your spine are not stable. You want to keep the belly drawn in to really recruit the muscles around the spine to make it so that it's stable. Good job. Now, a lot of people think they know how to do a push-up. I don't think so. Let's start with the knees, okay? There are a lot of things you got to worry about from your head to your hips on this one, so pay close attention. I've got a bolster to help me to cue you on what to watch for, because you can really hurt your back on this. And if you've got neck and back and shoulder problems, you've got to do this correctly. You ready, Ann? Let's get to it. So Ann is going off of her knees. That's how I want you to learn how to do this. And I'm going to put this bolster right here. And notice if you yeah. Does that make your back more comfortable or less comfortable? Okay, so she likes to have a little bit less of an arch right here. That's very important because you want to impinge as little as possible on those lumbar structures. Her head is straight, it's not dropped, and her hands are a little bit wider than shoulder width. Okay, a lot wider than shoulder width, about 6 to 7 inches wider, because you want to have 90 degrees at the elbow as you come down. So the hands are wide enough so that as you come down, watch, 90 degrees right there at the elbow. That makes it so that the pecs and the shoulder really have to work. But the head is not falling, so it's not dipping downward towards the ground. It's staying up and still. You want to minimize the arching here as long as it makes your low back more comfortable, not less comfortable. Pull the belly up and in. Is that more or less comfortable? More comfortable. So that's where we want to keep her throughout the exercise. Go ahead and go down, Ann. And see, she's keeping that relationship here. She's not arching her back here. And notice her head. Her head is not dropping away from the bolster. And so if I take the bolster away, see, she's got really, really good spinal protection here. And how hard is that on your chest, shoulders, and triceps? That's okay, good. But anything in your back? Super. Good job. Now, if going off the knees is too easy, you're gonna go off the feet. Very few people can do this. It takes a lot of practice. The work on the chest, the shoulders, and the triceps goes through the roof, and it's a lot harder on the abdominals too. If I use the bolster again on Ann, she's keeping the belly in. Notice that her hips are higher than her neck. That helps to protect the low back, and it makes the chest work harder. And go ahead and go down. But she's keeping the relationship. Ooh, that's tough, isn't it? That's gonna pickle her giblets. Good job. See, she's not arching her back. How hard are you working here?
Like a 7?
Yep, she's working now. Oh, good job, Ann. Good job. Good job. Endurance exercise needs to be part of every single exercise program that you do. And it complements the strength training because it burns fat, obviously, but it also helps decrease chronic pain. It lowers blood pressure, lowers cholesterol, And it also can decrease stress, much like resistance training does. Now remember though, it is no substitute for doing a strengthening program. It supplements it. And what we're going to do with Ann real quickly is we're going to turn the treadmill on. She's on the treadmill. If you don't have access to a treadmill, you can go ahead and increase it. If you don't have access to a treadmill, there is a sidewalk outside your house, I hope. And the same principles apply. You don't have to learn how to walk necessarily unless you're less than a year old. But she's just going to walk like she regularly does. She doesn't use a walker, so she's not going to be holding on to this. That doesn't make any sense. If you do feel unstable, it's no problem. You can hold on with one hand, but you want to get to the point where you're actually just walking as you regularly would, just out on the sidewalk with a friend. How hard do you feel like you're working right now?
Not too hard.
The scale of 0 to 10?
About a 3.
So that's not very hard at all. We want to get her to the point where she feels like she can talk, but not sing. I don't know if I really want to hear you sing anyway, do I? No. So I'm going to make her speed about 3. And if you have a treadmill at home, great. If you don't, no problem either. I'll talk about how to do that in a second. I'm going to increase the incline. So this is going to be going up and up. So now she's walking up a hill. And I'm at 7. Now I'm at 8. And now I'm at 9. And let's make it 10. And we're going to give it just a couple seconds. If you don't have a treadmill at home, you're going to have to rely on walking faster, maybe even finding some hills, but you want to make it so that you get to the point where you're really starting to breathe heavily and where you make it so you feel like you couldn't sing if you wanted to. How hard are you working now?
Maybe about a 5.
Okay, she's at a 5. I'm going to increase the speed a little. And now she's working. She's at 10% incline, so that's quite a hill. Don't trip and fall. And at 3.5 speed, how hard you working?
More like a 6.
So this is about where she needs to be, and she's only at 2 minutes, which means we probably need to back it down. So I'm going to decrease the incline some. Is that okay? I'm going to decrease it to about 5. And you want to choose an intensity that allows you to go for at least 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. And it's okay to start at 5 minutes, at 10 minutes, and work up, but that's a goal. How hard do you feel like you're working now?
About a 5.
And notice she's not slouching. The intensity is about a 5 out of 10, which is very good. That's moderately hard, and that's about where you want to be. You really don't have to rely on heart rate much at all. The perceived exertion, that scale of 0 to 10, is more than adequate. Unless you've been coming out of cardiac rehab and your doctor has a specific heart rate that doesn't want you to get above, or if you're pregnant, you don't want to exert more than about 140 beats per minute. Otherwise, just use the exertion scale. It really works. Good job.